Welcome to Outnumbered, everybody. FNC Digital Hangout. We are so happy that you're hanging out with us this afternoon live from the final day of the Republican National Convention here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. Although it is very steamy today, I might add. I'm Dagen McDowell, also here today. National Review reporter Katherine Timpf, who's staying in the Airbnb, by the way. We're not going to tell you the address. Sitting next to her is Republican strategist Lisa Boothe, FNC contributor and author of What the Bleep Just Happened. It is the internet, but we still can't curse. She's Monica Crowley. And today, hashtag One Lucky Guy, digital guy, former communications director for Marco Rubio's presidential campaign, Alex Conant. He is outnumbered. And I got your name right, didn't I?
You did. Thank you.
Yay. I did check beforehand to make sure I didn't foul it up. What did you think of Marco's speech last night?
It was good. It was brief.
Although
but it was
videotaped.
Yeah. I mean, so he taped he had intended to come to the convention, and he was looking forward to it, but then he decided to run for re-election. We've got a primary in 6 weeks and a lot of ground to make up since we weren't planning to run for re-election. So he decided his time was better spent in Florida. But the Trump campaign asked if he'd send along a video. He was happy to do it. It was nice that they played it during prime time. And I was actually in the room when they played it, and it was very well received by the delegates. So it's, you know.
Well, speaking of another speech, the big one, the big kahuna steps up to the microphone tonight. It's Donald Trump's big event just hours from now. Trump will give his formal acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention. He did a walkthrough of the convention stage just a short while ago, preparing for what is the most important speech of his life. So what can we expect, Monica Crowley?
Well, I think that he has had a number of extraordinary surrogates throughout this entire convention, like Chris Christie, Rudy Giuliani, Newt Gingrich last night, who have done their job in taking on the other side and in really attacking Mrs. Clinton and her record. So there's really not a lot of need for Donald Trump to do that tonight. I do expect him to take a couple of shots at her, and probably with some humor as well. But I expect the bulk of the speech to focus on broad themes. I think he understands the gravity now of the office that he seeks. And I think that he's going to go into the speech with almost a Kennedy-esque, Reagan-esque approach, drawing the distinction between Barack Obama and Mrs. Clinton as big government America, and by contrast, he will be big America. And by that I mean he's going to focus on themes about bringing America back, his slogan, Make America Great Again, in terms of high growth economically, powerful militarily, strong culturally and politically, and, as I like to say, adventurous from sea to space. Those are the Kennedy-esque and Reagan-esque big themes that I think we're going to hear from him tonight, because I think he understands now he's not just speaking to the folks in the room. He's not just speaking for Donald Trump, the Trump organization, or the Trump campaign. He is now speaking to the United States. And if he wins this office, he's going to be speaking
right.
on
Well, the
behalf
thing
of
is,
the
he's got to be
United
presidential. He's got to lay things out. But at the same time, people started to love watching him so much, everybody, because he was so interesting. So it's like, is he going to use the prompter? Is he not? How much is he going to use it? He's got to riff at least a little bit, because he was so interesting that anything lower, it's pretty much, you can be called boring. He set the interesting bar pretty high for himself.
But I think tonight, this is Donald Trump's first attempt and first time addressing the nation as the actual Republican nominee. It's no longer presumptive. He is the Republican nominee. So I think it's really incumbent on him to bring forth some of these themes that we've heard people talk about throughout the nights, whether it's national security, whether it's jobs in the economy, whether it's making America first again. And I want to see him sort of combine all of those themes and bring forward his direction for the country. What would the country look like under President Trump? Because you look at polling, the majority of Americans believe the country is on the wrong track. You've got a majority of Americans that believe that we're not going to leave a future that's better for our children and grandchildren. So what does America look like under Donald Trump?
In my stack of nerd info, I'm sure I still print stuff out. Let me pull up.
Me too.
I have this yellow notebook.
Real Clear Politics average, right? This is of yesterday. Right direction, 23%. Wrong direction, 69%.
Right.
So the Democrats can brag all they want about President Obama.
Right. And Hillary,
his poll number.
Obama has been so supportive of Hillary, which I guess is good, but it's also bad because people aren't happy, and she won't be able to hit him the same way that Donald Trump will, because that'd be, a little awkward if he's campaigning for her and she's like, hey, well, actually, there's really no whispering in the ear to ear of voters. It's all got to be kind of out.
As a side note.
No tin can phones.
These speeches, though, have so many cooks, if you will, that you can wind up with a casserole that isn't very appetizing.
That national security
true. I mean,
Right, but it can be, because then if you have too many hands in it, then it can seem not of him.
Well, and every draft, sometimes the most interesting things get taken out, the most controversial things get taken out, and then you're left with something that's very bland. And I totally agree with you. If Donald Trump stands up tonight and gives a bland speech, people are going to be, that's not going to go over well. That is not why people are tuning in tonight. They're tuning in to see Donald Trump. They expect him to say something provocative. It is a tough speech for him to do, because I think up until now, the American people have looked at him as a celebrity and a businessman. And to Lisa's point, now they're going to look at him as a potential president. What if Donald Trump was president? Where would he lead the United States? What would the first 100 days of his administration look like? What policies would he put in place on day one? And tonight he can begin to lay that out, but he has to do it in a way that's provocative and interesting. So that's a tough challenge for him.
Entertaining.
And little riffing.
Yeah.
He's going to need to do a little riffing.
People expect the entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whether
I mean,
it's
look,
from an insult or a joke that's,
and remember,
an insult that's disguised as a joke, something like that.
the first time that the American people saw him at this convention it was like the WrestleMania.
That's what I was just about to say.
In the back, and he was, cast in a shadow and an image, and he walks slowly. He knows what he's doing when it comes to entertainment. When it comes to making the speech, you're right. There can be sometimes a lot of cooks in the kitchen, like with a presidential State of the Union address. It is up to the candidate or the president to make sure the tough stuff, the great lines, the jokes actually do stay in, the way Ronald Reagan did with the tear down this wall comment. State Department wanted that out. They kept crossing it out, and he kept putting it back in. So it's incumbent on Donald Trump to make sure that the final draft is exactly what he wants in his
He
voice.
doesn't strike me as someone who can't stand up for himself.
Well, and Monica, you look at, you look at Hillary Clinton's line of attacks. The most effective line of attack she has is regarding Donald Trump's temperament. So I think something tonight, I think we want to see, and he needs to project this presidential aura. I can be president of the United States. I can be commander-in-chief. I've got this. This is what I will do for the country. And I really I think the best line I've ever heard from him is when he says that Hillary Clinton says, "I'm with her. I'm with you." And so I want to see that tonight. I want to see how he's with us, how he's going to help us, how he's going to make this country great again.
I do love when people want to be with me.
Who doesn't?
I don't know.
Sometimes, I mean,
being
depending
against
on
somebody is kind of fun. Okay.
Unless you need a nap.
Alone time is also important.
Since this is the
balance.
internet and the digital hangout, Lucy Goose, you want me to do my Hillary Clinton imitation?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let me think of a line. We don't need Chapter 11. We need a new chapter in America.
Well, and also it would depend
That
on.
sounds like her.
Yeah,
She,
when
she yells, she starts yelling, if that's the gender card, then deal me in.
But it would matter which part of the country you're in, because if you were in New York and you're Hillary Clinton, you'd have a New York accent. And if you're in the South, you'd have a Southern accent.
goes across all the dialect.
Because she panders.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys.
That won't be.